Ho, 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 gentlemen. The holidays have come early this year as Manscaped have the gift that keeps on trimming. Santa's beard isn't so appealing when it's coming out of your trousers, and that's why Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have you covered this holiday season. Now available in your country, join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to keep their trees trimmed and ornaments polished. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Stafford under pressure, and a tuck it, and he's in. Darrell Henderson, he's off and running. As Woods, touchdown. Cooper Kupp just went up and took it away.
Van Jefferson for the touchdown.
Aaron Donald smothers him. Jalen Ramsey with the pop-up. Sacked by Leonard Floyd, having a day again.
Darius Williams with a diving hit. Jordan Fuller comes up with his second interception of the night.
All right, guys, welcome into the Downtown Rams podcast. It is episode 398, and I am not joined by Alexis Kraft this time. I am joined by none other than my former co-host and the man behind the website, downtownrams.com. He has been putting out so much work. He's done an incredible job in 2021, so I'm really proud to bring back on my buddy, Blaine Grisak. How we doing, Blaine? Welcome into the show.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back on the podcast. Happy to celebrate this win. Beating the Seahawks, it doesn't get much better than that, especially how we did it.
No, I absolutely agree with you, man. We talked about this. The Rams have a chance to run the table, and they have a chance to win this division. They still somewhat have a chance. It's not a great chance, but they have a chance to get the number one seed. But they're not going to do anything like that if they can't take care of business against a team like Seattle that, has faltered down the stretch, really showing their true colors, 5-8. They were winners of 2 straight, and they did beat the Niners, but I don't think you and I were worried about Seattle coming into this game, but you're always hoping that, the Rams just take care of business. And this wasn't, the prettiest looking game, but, I think it's important to keep in mind, without them being able to practice, and honestly, I was kind of guilty of this for fantasy owners out there. You should have seen it coming with Cooper Kupp because, Cooper Kupp and Sony Michel, you stick by what has been working consistently when you're not able to practice, and that's what the Rams did. And ultimately, Cooper Kupp put in a game that would be considered an MVP resume builder, I would say, moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very commendable performance, I think, by the Rams. Like you said, with the COVID stuff, there's a time last week where they had 30 players plus on the COVID list. Like, if they had wanted to play on Sunday, Sean McVay wouldn't have had a full active roster probably. Having different game plans, not being able to practice, only really having a walkthrough on Saturday. It was just, it looked kind of rusty because, quite frankly, it probably was. They really hadn't stepped on the football field much since their win against Arizona. So for them to come out the way they did, come out in the second half at least, going down 10-3, coming back, responding and scoring a touchdown, and then kind of taking over there in the fourth quarter was nice. And then, like you said, you hear about Aaron Rodgers and his MVP performances, and he certainly deserves to be in the MVP conversation. But Cooper Kupp, man, what can you say about him? He absolutely took over the game. I mean, you would have thought it was Jamal Adams back there at safety, the way he was just dunking on guys, basically jumping over cornerback safeties down the field to come down with the ball. He took over that game, and he absolutely, Jonathan Taylor, what he did against the Patriots was absolutely fantastic. It's commendable. He deserves to be in that conversation as well. But Cooper Kupp, he's getting forgot about, I think. And last night was his MVP performance. He absolutely took over that game.
Yeah, and Blaine, the Rams are going to head to Minnesota this weekend, where Cooper Kupp will be going up against, not obviously head-to-head, but Justin Jefferson, who is second in receiving. And let's put it this way, Cooper Kupp is 10 yards away from being a full 300 yards ahead of Justin Jefferson. And that is, to me, that resembles what we've seen, is that Cooper Kupp is on another level, quite honestly. He is 375 yards away from getting to 2,000, which has never been done before. I understand you have a week 17 or week 18 now, 17 games. I get that. But there is a chance that Cooper Kupp breaks Calvin Johnson's record within the next 2 games, which would be 16 games, which wouldn't really have any sort of caveat to go with it. And then on top of it, there's a chance that he goes past 2,000. And I'm looking at that Vikings game, not going too much into it because it's not really a preview show for that. But I'm going, looking at that Vikings game, and I'm like, is it crazy to assume that Cooper Kupp could maybe have a 200-plus yard game against a team that is giving up more fantasy points to wide receivers than any team in the league?
No, it's not inconceivable at all, especially considering the way Cooper Kupp's playing. He's going to be able to have his way with that Vikings secondary, and it's been a while since these two teams have played. They kind of had there's a little bit of a Rams-Vikings rivalry really early in the Sean McVay era, and McVay found ways to really exploit the Vikings linebackers in coverage. And I'd assume they try to do that again, the way they bring Cooper Kupp into the backfield and work him in the passing game that way. I assume you'll see a lot of that against the Vikings. But yeah, what Cooper Kupp is doing is incredible, and it's just, if you think about Calvin Johnson, he was Calvin Johnson's quarterback. That year he went for 2,000. Matthew Stafford. It's just kind of crazy that the year Cooper Kupp's doing it, Matthew Stafford is also the quarterback. Wide receivers, they need to get some love. Kupp's going for the Triple Crown. It'll be the first Triple Crown since 2005. Steve Smith Sr. did it, and I put it out today on Twitter. If Cooper Kupp hits a Triple Crown now in 2021, it might be one of the more impressive feats in NFL history, just given how deep and how talented the wide receiver position is. You could argue 20 guys as top 10 wide receivers. And I don't think you could have said that in 2005 or 1992 when Shannon Sharp did it, or 1990 when Jerry Rice did it. The wide receiver position is so deep right now, and for Cooper Kupp to be leading in all 3 categories is kind of unheard of. No,
I absolutely agree with you. It really is. And none of us could have anticipated this type of season, because I think you and I were both, in the realm of belief that, him and Robert Woods were kind of 1A, 1B coming into the year. And you could argue that, they were going to be relatively split as far as production. But regardless of Woods going down or not, if you're going to use, the argument, well, he's got Odell, I would just say, Odell is back. We can both agree on that. But Odell has only practiced 1 full week since he's been with the Rams. I know it's hard to believe because he's got himself prepared and that's the type of player he is. But in realistic, point of view, this is what Cooper Kupp's dealing with, okay? He's dealing with the fact the run game has been bottom half of the league. So it's not like it's opening up him opportunities, in the receiving game. So that's another argument for him. On top of it, he's also dealing with the fact Woods is out. Odell comes in, a guy that's only practiced 1 week, doesn't have the full scope of the playbook. Van Jefferson is a second, year guy who was kind of thrown into the fire, and Deshaun Jackson just up and left. So, now you're dealing with guys like Ben Skoranek on the field who, they're going to be left open because, you're going to double Kupp. And I think that's the thing. But, moving forward, because I've already been seeing people in the fantasy football community try to make the argument, well, Cooper Kupp isn't going to, he'll be drafted 1 or 2 next year in fantasy drafts, but he is not going to be able to keep up this level of consistency. And to that end, I would almost disagree because, one, we don't know what the offense will be like next year, but there is a very good chance that we have Odell, a full offseason under his belt, learning this offense, Van Jefferson in year 3, and potentially Robert Woods coming back off that torn ACL and healthy halfway through the year. There's a chance that we get all of that in Cooper Kupp. And I can tell you right now, there's not going to be as many double teams on Kupp if you have all those guys out there. So who's to say he can't replicate what he's doing next year? But right now, we just got to enjoy what he's doing and, recognize the fact right now, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, I think they're all in the conversation. I do think Brady takes a hit just because, he was shut out. And I do think that is going to be something that you look at. But, all those guys are playing tremendously well. And I would argue right now, if I were to make a vote, it would be between Kupp and Jonathan Taylor, because what Taylor's doing as well is just really incredible, to mention that on top of it.
Yeah, and to go back to your point of, Cooper Kupp, doing this without Robert Woods. Kupp was doing this with Robert Woods. I mean,
exactly.
He has I think he has 90 plus yards in all but one game this season. He has, I think, 10 100-yard games. Like it's not like most of his yards have come after Robert Woods' injury or after Odell Beckham Jr. got to Los Angeles. He's been doing this all year long. And it's just kind of a testament to the work that he put into the offseason with Matthew Stafford to build that chemistry. And I mean, they didn't have breakfast this week, and that they maybe might have been on the wrong page there on the interception because of that. But they've been quite the combination this season.
No, I absolutely agree. And you and I have both kind of been riding the train of, Raheem Morris, right? This year, we both kind of have been on that same end in the belief that, he is getting this thing going. It's not as good as it can be, but he had some unfair criticism throughout the year, and they've been put in some tough positions. The defense of the last, few weeks has really stepped up. And I feel like they're peaking at the right time. We saw it in this game. You can say what you will, and Russell Wilson's not playing good football right now. But, I mean, just look at it. The way that defense shut down Metcalf, shut down the running game. Rashad Penny ran for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. He was pretty much invisible after, a couple big runs. You didn't really see much of him. And, I think what it comes down to is when you're able to hold a division rival that has, the chance to be able to put up some points. We've seen that. A team that did, have their way with San Francisco 2 weeks ago. To be able to do that, I think is impressive. But on top of it, I mean, this game got moved to Tuesday. Okay. But the Rams still didn't have the right tackle. The Rams still didn't have their captain of that defense, at safety in Jordan Fuller. And they still made do with what they needed to. But I think really the big thing, and I'm starting to see it now, is that, one, you got to give Raheem Morris time to really work in his scheme, because he's dealing with something that he's trying to fit in his own nooks and crannies into a defense that was already put together last year without him. And I think that was the thing that people were not giving him credit for. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you go out and you get Von Miller, that's great, but now you have to integrate him into your scheme. I understand he had familiarity with Vic Fangio, and Vic Fangio is pretty much the root of this scheme, but it's not as simple. The verbiage is different. Not everything just translates overnight, so they've had to integrate him in that regard. And on top of it, they have had to make adjustments. And we're talking about, putting in a rookie linebacker, throwing him into the fire, and watching him grow before our eyes. You were at the Arizona game. You texted me that you'll be getting a jersey of his and Ernest Jones. He was magnificent in that game, and he was magnificent in this game. And, that just leads me to believe that not only has Raheem Morris, finally he's gotten things going the right way, and finally guys are healthy, because keep in mind he lost Darius Williams earlier in the year. But now he's starting to make these adjustments that are just putting this team over the edge in a good way. And I really feel like they're peaking at the right time, and they're going to be a wicked tough out in the playoffs, because this offense, I've still not seen a perfect game out of this offense against a team that's not like the Giants or the Houston Texans. I feel like they can be even better, and they've had a lot going against them. So I'm excited for the future. And I feel like the last 3 games, winning 3 straight, this just pretty much proves our point that the Jaguars game was a get-right game. They still, despite only having the ball 1/3 of the game against the Packers on the road, at tough Lambeau Field, they still had a chance to tie that game up down the stretch. This team can beat anybody. And they got past, I think, their dark part of the season where everything seemed bleak. But we talk about Sean McVay's consistency. This happens quite a bit with Sean McVay, but he gets it together. Man, watching the defense come alive the last 3 weeks, that's a damn good sign for the Rams moving forward.
Yeah, they say championship wins defense, or defense wins championships, right? So, they This defense has really grown the last couple weeks. The last three games, one of them was against the Jaguars, but they've held two of their last three opponents to 10 points or less. That's pretty incredible. I was doing a little looking today, and I believe Russell Wilson's passer rating from this game was the ninth worst pass rating of his career. He had only, I think, they held Russell Wilson to only, I think, 151 yards passing, which was, again, like a bottom 10 performance of Russell Wilson's career. Like, yeah, the Seahawks offense isn't playing well, but Russell Wilson is still Russell Wilson. And he's not playing like Russell Wilson of old by any means, but to do that is still pretty incredible. And like you said, it kind of felt like in the first half of the year, the Rams were trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with Raheem Morris and the Brandon Staley defense. And as Morris has gotten more comfortable with the personnel and with the scheme and being able to add his own things into it, you've really seen them kind of take that next step over the last couple of weeks, especially, against Arizona. Yeah, they gave up a lot of yards, but they executed when they needed to. They got the turnovers in the red zone. They made the stops when they needed to on fourth down. And, hopefully they can carry that into the postseason, and they're in a really good spot here at 10-4, tied for the division lead. You have Minnesota, Baltimore, and San Francisco on deck, while the Cardinals have Indy, Dallas, and Seattle. And so that's not an easy schedule by any means, especially with the way Indianapolis is playing and the way Dallas's defense is playing. I mean, feasibly, the Rams can end up with the 2 or 3 seed and end up with a team like Philadelphia in the first round of the playoffs, not to look too far ahead. But honestly, like, that's a matchup you would love to have in the first round if they can manage it. So the sky's blue right now. If the Rams take care of business over the next couple of weeks, the Vikings are very up and down, but, take care of business against the Vikings. Baltimore, I could see McVay getting outcoached by Harbaugh, but that's a game Rams should win. That secondary is decimated, so this offense should be able to have its way against that defense. And then hopefully you can beat San Francisco to close out the year. But if they do that and take care of business, you're in really good shape right here at 10-4 after week 15.
Everybody is trying to cash in on the next best crypto, but if you want guaranteed way to double your money, all you got to do is head on over to MyBookie and use promo code JKDTR. It's simple. Sign up with MyBookie with promo code JKDTR, and your first deposit is instantly doubled all the way up to $1,000. How's that for a quick turnaround in your investment? With the NFL playoff race heating up and college bowl season just around the corner, double your firepower at MyBookie to get action in on the most important games of the season. Build your own props, create multi-game parlays, and take part in a host of MyBookie cash prize contests. This is the best time of year to both watch and bet on sports because you know who the winners are by now. Don't miss out. Double your first deposit by using promo code JKDTR and keep your eyes peeled for more exclusive holiday promotions coming soon at mybookie.ag. Bet anything, bet anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Girls, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of finding a bush when I go down in my man's chimney. Dear Santa, all I want this holiday season is for my man to have smooth jingle balls. Thankfully, Manscaped answered with the Performance Package 4.0, so I don't have to find Santa's beard in my man's pants again. Ladies, this holiday season, get your man products that will leave him smelling fresh with their all-new ultra-premium body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It's time to give the man in your life the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think a big thing in this game that I really enjoyed seeing was, Von Miller getting his sack because, I talked about it yesterday on my live stream. It's always big when you go to a team like that and you're already talked about, right? Like, remember when the Rams, they went out and they got, Dante Fowler Jr. and he gets that first sack and he really built off that. Von Miller's obviously a way better player. But I can't imagine that getting a sack like that isn't going to help him moving forward because, I feel like sometimes you get that sack under your belt and then it's like, all right, now I can now things can start to go. I feel like it kind of piles up on you. Last night, they got to Russell Wilson quite a bit. They got 3 sacks on him. They had 1 from Donald, 1 from Floyd, and 1 from Vaughn. I mean, that's pretty much what you love to see. You're getting some great contributions out of Greg Gaines, who has just turned into one of the best interior defensive linemen over the last, stretch of the season. But the Rams still can get healthier. I mean, they're going to get Jordan Fuller back, whether it's, tomorrow, the next day, whatever. I would imagine he'll probably be ready for the Vikings game. He'll get off the COVID list. And then you talk about getting, Sebastian Joseph Day back by playoff time. And at that point, you're almost put in a position where it's like, man, do you go 4-3 type of personnel, or at least put 4 on the defensive line? Because I don't want to take Greg Gaines out of the game, so it's kind of, it's a good problem to have for the Rams. So I think the Rams really, a lot of things are clicking for them right now. And when you're dealing with a team like, say, the Kansas City Chiefs on the other end, where everybody's talking about them, they're red hot, all of that. Patriots won 7 straight. They lost to the Colts, so a lot of people are talking about them. I mean, it's easy to forget the Rams are a 10-win team and they're the 5th seed. That's just the way the NFC works. There's only one 10-win team in the AFC. There is 5 in the NFC. And this team last year won 10 games. So they've already matched their win total through week 15 of the season. I think there's a chance that they can win the next 3. But I feel, I can't just guarantee that they're going to do that. I don't think you can sleep on Minnesota. No, they didn't play that great of a game against Chicago. But do you expect on, every single week, it's very rare that Kirk Cousins is only going to complete 11 or 12, of his passes. You know what I mean? It's just a very rare circumstance. And you're not going to see games like that. So, I can't just assume the Rams are going to stop Kirk Cousins yet again, like the Bears did. I feel like the Vikings realized they kind of got away with a game where they didn't play well at all, and they probably didn't deserve to win that game. But that's just the way it was, and they went up against a bad team in Chicago. So you can't sleep on that, and then you can't sleep on the Ravens, who, Lamar Jackson is not 100% right now, but we just saw Tyler Huntley look better than any quarterback really that's gone up against that, revitalized Packers defense. And furthermore, Lamar Jackson is probably going to be up to speed in the next 2 weeks. I think he'll be ready to go against the Rams. And the last time, Lamar Jackson played the Rams, we all know what happened. I mean, I'll put it this way. Alexis and I were recording the podcast in the 3rd quarter because the game was over, So, you can't just say that they're going to run the table, especially against a team that they're 0-5 against. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing some excellent football, a guy that I've given a lot of flack towards. He really has stepped up. He's been exactly what the Niners need, playing, to the strengths of that scheme. They have guys like Kittle and Debo. We don't have to obviously remind the fan base of, but now Brandon Ayuk is playing good football. They got, a 100-yard game out of Jeffrey Wilson last week. They'll probably have Eli Mitchell back. So, with Nick Bosa playing as well as he is on the defensive end, having 15 sacks this season, the Niners are, of course, not an easy win, especially a team that you haven't beaten the last 5 tries. So, the Rams have to take care of business. It may not be the prettiest, and I understand a lot of people are into the stats and they really want to see Cooper Kupp break the record, and I think there's a very good chance he does, as he is on pace for that. But it's so imperative to just take care of business. And so while I saw some fans that were upset with the score not being a 31-19 affair like I had predicted, or, more points being put up in some regard, 20-10, Rams win. I don't need to hear the score. If the Rams win, I'm cool with it, as should the rest of the fan base. Rams got 3 tough games coming up. We'll see how they finish the season. I don't expect them to go 0-3, but we can't just assume they're going to run the table either.
Yeah, and this week's tough too against the Vikings. Something that's probably not talked about is, the Rams played this game against the Seahawks on a Tuesday. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's 5 days until Sunday. That's about the same amount of time that they would have to recover and plan for a Thursday night game. So this is essentially the Vikings are getting a full week's rest and full week's time to prepare, while the Rams are getting basically a short week and have arguably half as much time to prepare as the Vikings do. So this team's going to have to be extra prepared this week. They're going to put in extra hours to to be ready this week, and hopefully by the Ravens game, when this COVID situation will be situated and figured out, and things will be kind of, I guess, back to normal in a sense where games aren't being postponed.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait for that because right now, I mean, the NHL, I don't know if you saw, they put it on pause until the 27th. So, yeah. There's already been leagues that have taken extra measures. I've always said this, the NFL is not going to suspend any games. They have a really tough schedule to accommodate. By adding another week, it really made it hard to postpone any games. College basketball has actually just been canceling games, like outright. Like they're not even going to make it up. The NFL can't, obviously. And if they do try to make it up, this isn't a sport where you can play a doubleheader. This is a very violent physical sport. This isn't like baseball. Baseball, you'd be able to make it up in, sometimes even a triple header if you had to. But I mean, you can't play back-to-back games of football. You would risk way too many injuries. So all in all, I think the Rams are going to be battle tested enough to feel good about the playoffs. As you know, and anybody that's listening, I've had the Rams winning the Super Bowl since, my preseason prediction, them over the Chargers. I don't know where I am on the Chargers right now, to be fair, but I still feel like even going through those three losses, I still feel like the Rams are the best team. When they're playing at their best, they are the best team. Whereas, if the Packers are playing at their best or, the Chiefs, I still think the Rams best is the best in the league. I think we saw glimpses of that throughout the season, but we never saw a complete game out of all three phases. I think the closest and the biggest game, I think, was the one you were at against Arizona. But they can be so much better. And, it starts with the red zone. It starts with the play calling. I think Sean McVay has improved his play calling. So I got to give him credit with that. The Rams have, of course, started to run the football a little bit more, getting some really good contribution out of Sony Michel. I like to see, Darrell Henderson back there. I want to see how they use them more in tandem. You had a really obvious, carry, disparity 18-6 with Sony Michel and Henderson. If that's the case, that's fine, but I'd like to see Henderson used more out of the backfield as a pass catcher. And then you get Cam Akers back, who in all likelihood is going to play in the playoffs. So, taking away a lot from this game in just a 20-10 game, some people may think, but the Rams really, showed us that they showed a lot of heart to win that game against Arizona. In real, like if the Rams were as fraudulent as the mainstream media and people would have you believe, Blaine, don't you think the Rams would have lost that game by double digits to Arizona on the road?
Without a doubt. I mean, just being there, that was a playoff atmosphere. It was loud in that building. It was packed with Cardinals fans. Like I haven't been like, if there was a road game that like I would think a lot of Rams fans would be at, it'd be that one, just because LA and Phoenix are pretty close. But the Cardinals fans showed out, and it was loud in there, and the Rams had to overcome a lot in that building to win that game, and they did, and it showed a great effort considering what they were coming off of, losing 3 of 4 and having just beaten Jacksonville, which how much credit how much worth do you put into a win against the Jaguars, who fired their coach basically a week later. Yeah, I mean, it was just a gutsy performance against the Cardinals, and honestly, just like that continued into this week, just again what they dealt with COVID. I mean, you can go to the Ernest Jones play at the end of the game, but honestly, like the Rams dominated the game, and honestly, the game should have been up by 3 scores at halftime. And had they had normal practice, a normal practice schedule, I would argue that they would have been up by 3 scores by halftime, because I mean, they outgained Seattle by over 120 yards at the end of the game, and it was just really silly mental mistakes that have the game close.
Yeah, I mean, the interception that comes on a drive that they're at least getting 3 points on. I mean, if you really think about it. So, yeah, I mean, I agree, and that interception I think was partially due to the fact that, they didn't have the full week and there was miscommunication. There's still going to be miscommunication because when you look at it, OBJ can't play every down because he still doesn't have the full grasp of the playbook, and nobody on God's green earth probably would by this time, considering he's only practiced 1 week. Didn't see a ton of usage with Van. It was a pretty big game for Ben Skoranek, who does get a lot of flack, but aside from that drop, I thought he played really well. And Sean McVay even came out and said, he's really a sharp tool, and he knows what he's doing. And even Raheem Morris said that he's been glued to Cooper Kupp's hips. So it's one of those things to have a guy like Cooper Kupp, who already to me looks like a coach moving forward. Like, I feel like at the end of his career, I think he's going to become a coach. But with Cooper Kupp, to have a guy like that in the receiver room and to have a guy like Robert Woods and Odell, you have not only the veteran presence, the leadership, but also the understanding of the game, the IQ. They can, teach the little nuances. I think it's going to help Van incredibly moving forward. I think it's going to help guys like Tutu Atwell and Ben Skoranek, and I think it'll help out Jacob Harris. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. We will see, but I'm very, very excited for the prospect of the Rams having what could end up being just like the Arizona Cardinals receiver room next year. You have a guy, in Tutu Atwell, like a Rondale Moore, who's like the 4th or 5th option. You have that, opportunity. You get him more involved in the passing game. He comes in, he runs a jet sweep, or, he takes top off a defense. You have Ben Skoranek, who's shown that, he can be Johnny on the spot, can, fill in. He's already had to fill in. If you're going to look at these last few weeks in any way, I would look at them, in a light of a silver lining, because it sucks to lose a player of Robert Woods' caliber, but to go out and be able to throw Ben Skoranek in the fire, it's going to make him better, and I think these guys are getting, a little bit of a boost that, if Robert Woods was healthy, we wouldn't have even seen Skoranek. Regardless of how you feel about him, I really got to say, I love the next man up. And I love the fact that we're getting to see Ernest Jones, a rookie 3rd-round pick, getting an opportunity to start. I love that we're seeing a 7th-round pick and Ben Skoranek getting a chance to play, meaningful snaps in games, getting those valuable reps. I just love it, because I feel like this is once again why the Rams are able to make the trades they make, because they can find talent late in the draft, and they can continue to develop. And I think that's a big thing. They did it with Corey Littleton. You can even go back to Rodney McLeod. They have developed guys either late in the draft or UDFAs, or just regardless, their draft picks. And this is, a working formula, and this is why they felt comfortable enough to make trades for Matthew Stafford, Jalen Ramsey, Brandon Cooks, you name it. They've made a trade for it. Von Miller, another one. It just kind of goes to show you that, this is working. And if people didn't think that, it was, go and look at that Arizona game, a team that was without a ton of players in that game, a team that, was dealing with all the questions from the media saying that they can't play well together. They really stepped up and showed heart. So I think that's going to be something that you can really take away moving forward as we get into, the later half, the later stretch of this season, the next 3 games into the playoffs. The Rams are looking good, not just now, but for the future. And, we don't know how the Matthew Stafford contract negotiations will go, but I would have to imagine he will be back, on some sort of extension. And honestly, Blaine, at this point, I think Andrew Whitworth is going to stay, because right now the Rams, as long as they keep things going the way they have it, they have a chance that they win a Super Bowl this year. They can start a dynasty run, and that's going to be a big thing. So when you have a young coach like Sean McVay, very relatable, and you have everything that's, all those pieces in place, that's how it starts. And they've already dealt with adversity. They're going to be more than conditioned and ready for the playoffs. And I honestly can't wait for it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. It'll be Matthew Stafford's moment. And I mean, like you said, this team, the way they built the organization, the way they develop players, for a team that isn't supposed to have depth, you have guys like Kareem Orr, guys like Dante Dion, guys like Ernest Jones, Greg Gaines stepping up when their number is called. Ben Skoranek, even, as much as, he frustrates me sometimes with his just periodic focus errors. like it's just a testament to how well they draft. You know, you hear all the big time analysts, the Rams are supposed to have, the Rams aren't deep. They give these draft picks. It's going to affect their depth later on in the season when guys get hurt. And here you have guys stepping up when their number is called, which is a great thing to see. You know, I'd like to see, you know, we saw Bobby Evans yesterday. I would have loved to see Alaric Jackson get some reps in there too, especially with how Bobby Evans was playing. But that's neither here nor there. And honestly, you know, you talk about Ben Skronik finding success with this offense, and that's kind of just a testament to Matthew Stafford too, and having trust in his guys. I'm not sure, not to bring Jared Goff into this, but I'm not sure you've gotten that same trust in a Ben Skronik with another lesser quarterback. It doesn't have to be Jared Goff. I think you can talk about a lot of quarterbacks that way. I don't think they would have had that sort of level of trust in a guy like Skronik, like Stafford does. I mean, he goes to him on third downs when it's that's a big point in the game is to convert on third downs, and you have Stafford going to Ben Skronik, and you know, most people probably don't even know who Ben Skronik is, but here he is, a wide receiver suiting up for the Los Angeles Rams. So it's a testament to Stafford. And honestly, you know, they lose Robert Woods, and you know, Tom Brady just lost Chris Godwin. But how many other quarterbacks would find success losing a huge wide receiver like Robert Woods in their offense? They would see a decline. And for Matthew Stafford, it's just, you know, he had that 3-game stretch, but you know, he's really kind of hit that next level. And yeah, I'm excited to see, you know, how he develops all these next 3 games, and you know how he suits up when his number when his number is called in the playoffs.
Yeah, man, 100% agree with you there. And, you know, I got to say, I really expected the Rams. I knew they were going to win when the announcer came out and said Pete Carroll called Cooper Kupp the show. Like, he was the show. And I knew when that was said that Seattle went in assuming they were going to just shut down the Rams by shutting down Cooper Kupp, which one we've already seen. The best scheme against stopping Cooper Kupp was the Arizona Cardinals earlier in the season, and he still caught over 60 yards, receiving yards. So it wasn't like he was completely shut down, talking 0 catches, 0 yards. That's not possible. Not with the level of, you know, intelligence and, you know, ability that Kupp has. But I think what people forget is that, you know, the Rams have talent all over the place. And so when I heard, you know, well, we got to shut down, you know, Cooper Kupp, he's the show. When I heard that, I was like, they're going to lose because that's their game plan. And they're going to leave, you know, everything wide open. They're going to leave the run game open. They're going to leave OBJ or Van Jefferson, you know, and I think that's, you know, a big reason. I mean, they weren't going to win anyway. They just aren't as talented as the Rams. The Rams would have had to make multiple mistakes. Really, the Rams would have had to beat themselves. But you could see it. I mean, the Seahawks came out immediately, and they did exactly what Arizona did. They wanted to stop Kupp, and they wanted to sell out to stop the run. And, you know, eventually you sell it to stop the run, but then you open up things in the passing game, and then all of a sudden you can run the ball. It's like a pick your poison approach. And that's why it's so imperative for the Rams to have a balanced passing attack and run game on top of using play action, which has just been a game changer for them. But that is going to do it. Blaine, if you have anything you'd like to shout out or any final thoughts, the floor is yours. I really do appreciate you coming on, my man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure talking Rams football with you. Glad to be able to celebrate this win here. You know, for everybody listening, be sure to tune in on downtownrams.com. We have a lot going on, heading down the stretch here at the final stretch of the season, and then we'll also be continuing in with our draft coverage as well as the Senior Bowl kind of kicks off here after the new year. So be sure to tune in to downtownrams.com, and again, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to talking with you a little bit more. Moving forward, we got some big stuff planned for 2022. I think everybody knows by now, but if you don't, we will be going to an everyday format of the podcast. Really excited for that. Going to be able to have plenty of time to do like full on episodes on certain draft prospects, and it's going to be fun. We're going to bring back interviews. Blaine's going to be on here quite a bit. Alexis, of course, my co-host. It's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys are subscribed. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to this on. And that is going to do it. For Jake Ellenbogen, he's Blaine Grisak. And for the absent Alexis Kraft, who will be back soon, this has been episode 398 of the Downtown Rams podcast. We're almost at 400. You guys take care and go Rams.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and make sure to use code DTR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.